Skating has been the one thing that I'm like, oh, like, that's my talent. And I didn't go to the Olympics twice, and I'm like, is it though?
Yeah. Adam Rippon, new book. For those who haven't read the book, what was it that your mom did? All the sacrifices that she did for you, and sort of how did that manifest itself into your journey?
Looking back, my mom had to do so many crazy things. And now being somebody who's like, I'm gonna be 30 in November, and my mom was like 28 when she had me. So
Wow.
it's just very insane to think that somebody who's about my age was trying to deal with like a child. But some of the things that my mom did, she would help get me to different cities to work with different coaches. She would like refinance the house to have money to pay for my skating and everything. And I didn't really know a lot of what my mom was doing. I just knew it was a lot. But I wouldn't have changed anything about the way that my mom raised me, because it pushed me to be really thoughtful of everything that I did. It pushed me to work hard. And, you know, my mom was always the first person where, like, you know, if we did something, my mom would be like, did you say thank you to everybody? And I'm like, yes. And then she'll ask, did Adam say thank you? You know, it reminded me to like stay grateful and to work hard. I did everything I could every day to like prove to my mom she was making the right choices. So I would like work extra hard, or I would do the extra workout. I would do anything I could to just make it worth it. It can be difficult because I'm not the only child. I'm one of 6.
You said that your dad was not all that supportive of you pursuing skating in that manner, right? In that competitive manner. And then when they divorced, it was sort of up in the air whether you were going to be able to continue to compete.
You know, when I first started skating, I think it was just my dad wanted me to have more of a normal life. And it was nothing like, it was like, I don't want you to skate. But you know, I don't think it's like a normal life for on a Monday morning that like your 13-year-old takes the Greyhound bus from Scranton to, you know, Willow Grove.
Yeah.
I don't think that's like normal. And then on Friday night, you get picked up at the Greyhound station. But at the end of the day, when I got older, I felt like I needed to take on this responsibility myself. So I told my mom I wanted to you know, take control. I wanted to be the leader in my life. I wanted to pay the bills, and if I couldn't pay them, I would figure out a way on my own. I just didn't want it to be a burden. My mom felt like maybe it was me trying to push her out.
Yeah.
And being like, okay, thanks for the money, like, bye. And it was never that. It was just me wanting to take responsibility, but it's really hard when it's, you know, something that has like emotionally connected you for, you know, almost your whole life. I felt like, you know, if at the end of the day, if I went to a competition and I was paying my coaches and I didn't do well enough to get prize money to pay them, I needed to figure out a way to do that myself. I didn't want it to be like, okay, well, you know.
Mom's got to take out a second mortgage now.
Yeah.
And the rest of my brothers and sisters are like,
hey.
Hey, by the way, like, you have 5 other kids.
Yeah.
Did you feel like your worth at one point was wrapped up in your performance as a skater?
Oh, yeah. When you're in a family of 6 kids, you want to stand out, you want attention, and it's hard to get it. And for me, it was like, I was always the skater. Anytime I was home, it was always like, what's going on with skating, blah, blah, blah. So there was never a time for me to like decompress with my family.
And then also, right, you moved out to LA, and then you spent a lot of time with Ashley and Mariah.
Mm-hmm.
And some of that friendship led to other opportunities as well, right? You choreographing, you getting publicity, but also developing a sense of balance.
Well, I started doing choreography after I missed the Olympic team for the second time. And at that point, I was like, skating has been the one thing that I'm like, oh, like, that's my talent. And I didn't go to the Olympics twice, and I'm like, is it though?
Yeah.
Like, that's my talent? I'm not very good at it. When I started doing choreography, I felt like, oh my God, I can do something, I can be good at something else after I'm done competing. And I also think it put less pressure. I was putting less pressure on myself to be a great competitor, because I felt like I was good at other things. It didn't feel like, oh my God, if I'm not good at this, I'm not good at anything.
Another thing that was very interesting to listen to was that when you got very focused on the process, the results came.
Yeah, I didn't worry about how I was going to do, because I think when I focused on the process, I enjoyed that so much. You know, going to the Olympic Games at 28 is not something that happens. It's not a realistic thing to happen. So I felt like really grateful for every year that I was competing leading into the 2018 games. I didn't realize how lucky I was until, now being away from it for a year and a half, I didn't realize what like a sense of self-worth you can have as being an athlete. Like there's something so amazing of every day you go to sleep and you're exhausted. But you physically exerted yourself and you pushed yourself mentally every day. It's such a high that you don't realize until you take a step back. And you realize you pushed yourself like to inhumane levels of like extremism.
Right.
But it's such an exhilarating thing and really jarring to have that like life kind of end and begin a new career. As any new career is, it is a transition. But I think it was really enjoying that journey because I had a better perspective of there's life after this, so I have to enjoy this now.
When you were in LA, there was a lot going on. Obviously, you were in that toxic boyfriend relationship where he almost drove you off the road, and you were struggling with when you were going to come out to the Olympic community.
Yeah.
What sticks out about that time?
So I moved to California and I was there for about a year and a half before I tried to make the Olympic team for the second time. So in 2010 I was an alternate. In 2014 I was nowhere even near the alternate list. So it was like the Dow is crashing. And I felt like I'm kind of reaching the end of my career and it's all kind of like going downhill. It was the first time where I was like, well, I need to get a life outside of the rink. Maybe I won't feel like this. So I was just kind of like trying to find anything that felt like a feeling of being more than just a skater. I had never had like a relationship before, so this person who I met, and it was like the first person who was like sort of like interested in me, and they weren't the greatest. It was like, an emotionally abusive relationship that felt like it could get physically abusive. One day I kind of woke up and was like, I can't believe I'm in this situation that I'm in right now. Like, how did this happen? In those moments, I had to really like own who I was and what I was doing. And aside from that, I was thinking about coming out to the Olympic community, but I wanted to do it when I felt really good about myself and when I was a good role model, when I was skating well. I didn't want to be like, hey, there's Adam Rippon, the disaster who's not doing well. And he's gay, which is, that's good. Yeah, it's gonna do a lot for a lot of young kids, yeah.
You also mentioned that just sort of the vibe around figure skating, that at one point you weren't really wanting to be gay because that's how you were seen already.
For skating, it's an individual sport. So when you go out there, you're representing yourself. You are your brand. Because it is judged, people can look at you and be like, I just don't like it. Other parts to it where it's, if you are doing things technically that are just undeniably have to be rewarded, they'll be rewarded. So you can go as far, but there is that subjective side to it. And you can get people who are really like, this is just not my cup of tea. This isn't not going to be well received somewhere else. You got to change it, you got to fix it. And that can be really harsh, but you have to kind of take that information and use it or ignore it. And I think I was lucky because I could come out and it was very quiet. And then I just always was. I didn't need to share it at the most pivotal point in my career.
And you coming on and talking to us about your book, I found it fascinating. It was an amazing read. Everybody go out and get it. There's a ton of nuggets and lessons and hilarity and inspiration. So I really appreciate you coming on, and congratulations on the book.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Thank
I always
you.
have so much fun coming here.
I know,
too.
it's fun.